Thank you so much for being here. Would you like to introduce your group? Come on out, group.
Hello, hello. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Beautiful Time Inc. and FestForum. Here are our fabulous panelists. We have David and Michael and Anika and Anthony. They're sitting in order, so you can take down their details and reach them through their websites or come up at the end and grab their business cards. I want to personally thank FestForums, Lori and Stuart, for having me. I was at their I was with Lori in Austin, Texas, right before this started. And so today's panel is, what's the best thing you ever did with technology? And I want to personally thank this team of panelists because they're going to share with you inside information of what worked and didn't. And I don't think many people do that today. And they were a great team backstage collaborating together to see which were the best questions to ask today. And we're going to open it up for Q&A. So if we do not touch on your topic, we're going to have about 10 minutes at the end. So we're going to start with you, Anthony. Would you please tell us a little bit about us so we can hone in? We're such a diversified panel. We'll come back to me. I'll introduce me, and then we'll start off with the questions, all right? Okay. Thank you.
So my name is Anthony Palermo. I'm the CEO of Connect&Go. Connect&Go provides RFID access control, RFID payments, and RFID experiential activations. So we use the wristband to create a connected experience. We've been doing this for 6 years now. We're one of the bigger players in the space. We do a lot of large-scale events like the Super Bowl and big music festivals and world tours. And we also do a lot of very niche marketing activations. So anyone from New York might have seen the Jack Daniel's Motel 7 activation. It's been on tour for a year and a half. Things like that we do. We're doing the Game of Thrones activation at Comic-Con. So a lot of like marketing activations. And really our why is thinking about the customer experience. Because we think about the customer experience, our clients and our team are on the same page of designing technology to support consumer behavior. That's really how we position ourselves, and love to talk more about it.
Great. So my name is Anika Grant. I'm a Director of Client Solutions working here at Time Inc. as a part of Essence Magazine. Essence Magazine has a festival in New Orleans, the Essence Festival, and we are actually one of the largest live events in the country with over 500,000 consumers coming to New Orleans over 4th of July weekend. And we really take all of the content from the magazine, from online, and have created a massive event with multiple daytime experiences and stages and evening concerts. So our goal is really to create a memorable experience for the African American consumer through this event, in addition to connecting brands with those consumers that are there.
My name is Michael Bleau. I am a co-founder and CEO of Events Locker. We do a bunch of things. EventsLocker.com is a festival management software. It's a cloud-based, specifically focused on vendor and on-site sponsor management. And then my company also has a services division that partners with experiential marketing agencies to source events and festivals when they have their annual mobile tours. And I also produce Imagine Yoga and Music Festival, which is a charity fest that happens once a year in Malibu.
That's cool. My name is David Bernahl. We have two food and wine festivals that I founded, Pebble Beach Food Wine and Los Angeles Food Wine Festival. Not as big as a lot of events that get thrown in the country, 10,000 in Pebble and 20,000 attendees respectively for Los Angeles. We got those started. We just had our 10th anniversary of Pebble Beach Food Wine. It was we're going on our 7th of Los Angeles, and we do events that are kind of spread out all over the city. In Pebble Beach, it's really kind of all kept in and around Monterey County. And we also operate restaurants now in Monterey, previously in Las Vegas and Los Angeles as well. I have a small glassware and event production company in addition.
Fantastic. My name is Susan Johnston. I'm founder director of New Media Film Festival. It was incepted in 2009, launched through a millennial program through the United Nations and the Wagner Opera in Second Life live at a soundstage in California. Huffington Post says we make the cutting edge accessible, and our mandate is honoring stories worth telling. So we merge story and technology. Speaking of technology, it can be miraculous, and it can also make you just want to pull your hair out and jump off the nearest bridge. So we're going to honor the title of this particular panel by addressing that question first. So for those of you that are just coming in, I'm the moderator, and then the speakers are actually in order of their names, so you can get their information and contact them through their websites, and they'll be here for business cards and stuff like that. So Anthony, we're going to start with you. Please share with us, what's the best thing you did with technology?
I think one of the most time-consuming and successful deployments we did was probably for the Fire Festival in the Bahamas a couple weeks ago. I mean, from the start of the project all the way till when it ended, everything, nothing went wrong for us. I think
That is a great answer.
I was going to say, it was, my team are some of the happiest people in North America. They spent 5 days in the Bahamas doing nothing, hanging out. I mean, the technology really worked because no one used it, and so there were no complaints. I have, and I'm just so happy that we've been made famous by the Bloomberg article that came out about Fire Festival and mentioned us. We were very happy to be included in all that. I actually had people thinking that we were part of organizing Fire Festival. So definitely one of the most successful deployments we've had. The question was that?
So what is the best thing you did with technology?
So the Fire Festival, the best thing we do with technology, I think, is really just about every project that we work on where we get a chance to work with sponsors and start to create a connected experience. So what we really get excited about is not just doing access control, which is usually the starting point for using an RFID wristband at an event. This is your ticket to get in. It's exciting. We get very kind of operational and work with the food and beverage team to get going into payments with the technology. It's fun because now we're really aiding or supporting the behavior, which is I want to buy things quicker. I don't have to wait in line at an ATM. I don't want to have to carry my wallet with me. Like, all these things are very exciting. But really what becomes fun is when we get a chance to kind of bring the whole thing together and go, okay, we're going to document your experience. We were talking on the panel, the panel call that we had prior to this. We were saying that sometimes there's too much tech. And so I think one of the most successful things we've done is when we've really made the technology as invisible as possible, as easy to use as possible, and that's really exciting to us. I'm the most anti-tech technologist you'll meet. I have no technology at home, no television, no internet, no iPads, no nothing, no microwave. So I'm very much about where is technology needed. And where does it make a lot of sense, and where does it support consumer behavior? And that's, to me, the most successful projects has been where we've been able to do that.
That's fantastic. Now, you've been around for 22 years, correct?
Yeah, and what's interesting for us is that we've grown as the festival industry has grown. So we have been around long before a lot of the other big festivals, and we are just at the point where we're trying to implement more technology. So trying to back into it is really complicated, So I can't even answer the question and say, what have we done yet? Because we are literally in year 2 or 3 of just trying to retrain the audience.
So can you tell us what is the first technology you implemented, and then what was the cause and effect of that? Maybe that's, because if that's your first foot in the water, that may help.
Right, and I would say we've always dabbled here and there in lots of different technology, but an app is one thing that the audience accepts on one end, but if they've been coming for the last 10 years, they still want their paper schedule. So we are always trying to provide utility, provide usefulness for the audience in implementing technology, and then also focusing our efforts. With 100,000 people coming through the convention center in New Orleans each day, that's a lot of people to try to say, hey, did you register? Did you pre-register? So we were in baby steps. And so I think answering your earlier question, how do you do it where it's not disruptive, is that you really have to communicate effectively with the audience, make it necessary, required. And for us, it's focusing. We can't do it all in 1 year. We have to literally slowly start implementing it in every little segment.
Thank you. Well, I want to make sure that we get to both of them, but I want to remind everybody that all of us are going to use technology differently. You have to discern which technology is right for your company or experience. So would you help us with what is the best thing you did with technology?
So I don't want to be too self-serving. I will say that eventslocker.com's vendor management software came out of the struggles of doing Imagine Yoga Music Fest for the first year, specifically the nightmare that was vendor management. We had people that were mailing physical applications in, faxing stuff over. Some were writing checks, some weren't, keeping track of all, and there were 4 different volunteers managing the whole process. And then you have I'm sure you guys know anyone with vendors, you have COIs come in that are missing, additionally insured. You have health permits that are missing commercial kitchen numbers and all these little things that just hold up the process. So that really came out of trying to streamline the whole process. But in a broader sense, some other things we did with Imagine Fest that were really helpful this past year were we implemented Google Documents and got buy-in from the team. So that just being able to keep a group on a same live document as far as Google Sheets for things like volunteer management. And there's amazing systems out there for that, but we were on it's a 100% volunteer organization and we had 0 budget for any systems. So being able to use Google Documents and other free tools out there successfully, it was great. And also one thing that we managed to do though is, so we have different vendors. Some people are very tech savvy. Some people are, 80-year-old Malabid vendors at a yoga festival. So it was important to be flexible with the technology to enable them to still communicate in ways that they're comfortable with. You can't force someone to use a smartphone if they're used to using paper and pencil. So I guess making sure we're flexible when we implement our new technologies was something we did very well this last year. Everyone was comfortable and everyone had a great experience at the event.
Thank you. All right, David,
Yeah.
you're running at least 2 of them, I see. Pebble Beach and
Yeah,
Los Angeles.
so we have 2 festivals. I think the coolest thing we ever did was more around Pebble Beach, but it's something we've been working on. I think depending on the party you throw or what the event is or the platform, there's only so many attendees that really make sense depending on what you're doing. So you hit kind of a peak because you might want the intimacy of the event or the experience to be such. And I think Pebble Beach Food and Wine is very much that. Like we're not going to go from our current attendee base to like 100,000 people because honestly, Thomas Keller doesn't really want to cook for the number of people we have there now, much less anymore. So we had to figure out how do we take the brand outside of the weekend so that people can experience it and have some sort of buy-in or opt-in or experience around that brand elsewhere. So last year was the first time we live streamed a champagne and caviar tasting out of market. So we had our panel, and we had a room full of people in Pebble Beach that had 10 glasses of Taittinger in front of them and a bunch of caviar. And we live streamed it to Chicago. And in Chicago, it was snowing outside, but everybody in that room at 7 Lions downstairs had the same champagne and the same caviar. And so they all bought tickets to come to a Pebble Beach Food and Wine Festival event, but in Chicago. And so we were live with them, and I was able to walk the camera outside and say, here's what it would be if you were here. See the ocean, it's gorgeous, snowing in Chicago. And it was really a pilot program for where we're going next. And I think there's music festivals have done a great job of this, is taking the experience and I think virtual reality. There's a lot of ways that people are trying to bring the experience of the weekend out to the consumer that might not be there at that moment. And I think for us, it's complicated because we can live stream a cooking demo, which is like watching culinary television, right? But if you can actually have, you can be tasting and doing and drinking the same things at the same time, live, and be able to interact and ask questions. That was kind of how we started to build this platform that we're now rolling out to a much bigger. So it's not just Chicago; it'd be cities internationally, depending on time zone. And so that was, I'd say, the coolest thing we've done so far.
That's fantastic. So New Media Film Festival is in its 8th year. The next installation is June 6th through 8th. And basically we have 20 categories, everything from 3D virtual reality, 5D augmented reality, artificial intelligence, and then your normal stuff, you know, web series, shorts, features, docs, etc. My tech side is, I actually was released from high school to go to a gold refinery and set up their computer department. And then I went to a division of Pierre Cardin, and I used to run a division right out of high school. When the system would crash, I would fix it, and I was happy. But the rest of the company was miserable because everything was down. And then you cut to when SD became HD, I was the test bunny for Panasonic's Vericam and their DVX100, and my notes on the DVX100, my notes with my team in the field, because I loved guerrilla-style shooting, became the 100A. And then when 4K came out, Red came up to me and they wanted me to give my notes on the Scratch program. So I went and looked at the Scratch program, loved it, saw areas where I would need to invest some time in it, but at that time I was VP of production for a studio, and I only have like one brain space, and my brain is lines and dots. So you cut to technology. So I love to manipulate systems from a back end, and I was doing that for years, and I would contact companies like Eventbrite and Square, and I'd go, hey, this is what I'm doing. Can you just do this for me? And they go, oh, you can't do that. And I go, well, I am. I'm just asking you to switch this part. You know, so I'm sharing something with them that could have expanded. So the reason why I say you have to pick the technology that works for you is not every company wants to do something ancillary or add on in a different area. So out of sheer frustration, I did something similar to what you did, but I didn't market it to sell to the audience, is I found a gentleman who's a webmaster through one of my board members and judges, a Gemini Award winner in Canada. I said, help. And he got me a guy who's a webmaster but used to run a music and film festival. So he knew our world. And I said, and he got it, but he didn't want to build it until he knew where I was coming from. And it was about the user experience. So here's what I discovered that I can share with you that we found helped. I'm not going to tell you how we built the back end. But we looked at it that we're speaking a different language. So we speak in visual and we speak in text. And then in our inter-user phase, we go at it from an old school standpoint and we go from a new school standpoint. So my philosophy for you on the tech side is, even though I love it and I'm in it and I don't care if it all goes to hell because I'm like, ooh, what I suggest to you is always have a plan B, because in a perfect case scenario, it can all go up in flames. Even though your tech didn't, Fire Film Festival did. So that's why even though you're expanding into tech, you got it going on without technology. So that leads us to, this was a question that was brought up in the session out there. So when can tech have a negative effect on you? And do you have an experience where tech was negative that, you know, we may go, hey, heads up, heads up? Anybody?
I had an absolute failure year one. So we had kind of a complicated situation with our ticketing, because people were buying packages. So you'd have like 12 individual tickets and 1 million permutations, depending on what you selected. And most ticketing software was, you could maybe select some things, but they were individual tickets, and we were looking for a singular badge that was able to scan across all of the things that you picked. So we had to create a lot of individual itineraries, I guess, if you will, for a weekend. And so we figured it out. We kind of worked with a software company to build our own little model. And we were going to print all of our badges in the office prior to Pebble Beach Food and Wine Year One. And that didn't go well. So the printer broke. And we ended up pretty much just handing out slips to people to say, oh yeah, no, we recognize your name. You're absolutely welcome, because the printer would jam after every badge went through, and we didn't think that through. So it sucked really bad. But we got through it and changed for next year, but that was our failure.
So how did you change for next year?
We decided to have somebody else print them.
Okay.
And so that was good. But I think it's really important that you utilize people that are really good at what they do. And I think what's so great, especially at this festival, we've got so many people with so many amazing technology platforms, is that when you're throwing a party, there's not, you want to focus on what you do, right? You want to focus on the experience, you want to focus on what that is, and you want to reach out to technology partners that can help make that piece easy, because when you've got a million things to deal with, sponsors, vendors, your customer, your guests, you name it, what is going on, let those things happen seamlessly. And if it costs a little bit more money to do that, that's the right idea, so long as you know it's going to be handled.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
So we had a couple negative experiences with technology in Imagine Fest. One of them was the first year leaving it to the vendors to provide their own internet. So if you use electronic payment systems, Square, stuff like that, Cash Me, I think it's called, you have to make sure that you provide your vendors with some type of backup internet access and the reason is you can say it's on the vendor, but the problem is it hurts the attendee experience. And you don't want to hurt the attendee experience because your vendor didn't set themselves up right with the utilities that they needed. So I would say that is one area we learned is if you're going to have a cash-only festival, that's great.
So how would you bring in your own hub?
What's that?
How would you do that? Would you bring in your own internet hub?
So that you can get internet that's like a wideband festival wide internet. It's not cheap, but it's worth it, And what you can do is subsidize that cost with your vendors as an add-on or a booth extra or something like that pretty easily. You don't have to charge like the GES $300 a day, but you could do something to at least make up your cost there. And I think that'll greatly helps the experience, because when there's nothing like having a line of 5 attendees waiting to buy something from a really cool vendor and they're waiting 20 minutes because the internet's so slow they can't get the transaction. Or another way to do it is they have cashless payment systems now, which are pretty exciting, and they have a lot of cash festivals also go cash only. But you have to make sure you have ATMs that have reliable internet as well. We had an ATM company where one of the ATMs kept going down every 20 minutes. So
ATMs run out of money.
And they run out of money if you have
Which
a lot
is
of people
amazing,
using it. Yeah.
Because I just thought it was forever.
So cash only is not always a foolproof way to do it. You still have to have backup plans to that, to go back to your point
And
earlier.
someone can take your cash.
That's true. You can
Just to add to your point, I think as you implement new technology, and some of the lessons that we have learned is just making sure everything speaks to each other. We've got a lot of grandfathered in technology partners that then we say, oh my gosh, we've met a new one, this is great, let's implement them. And then the two don't speak. So really doing your research, because certainly there's a lot of great ideas out there and just incredible stuff. And I think that's what we've learned as being such a big festival, but then knowing that we've got to kind of take this entire ship and turn it around, that you've got to take the baby steps and do the research to ensure that everything talks to each other, because it's great. Maybe you've collected all this data on site, but if you can't then take it back in and put it into your internal system and retarget out communications, then what was the point? So that's really one of our biggest lessons that continues as we add new technology. We want to do it all, but we can't. We really have to focus in on the areas that can speak with our existing systems and then create a roadmap for the future on how we can make everything work together.
It's a valid point. All systems do not speak to each other. Thanks.
I think one of the biggest challenges we've had is sometimes there's a difference between the UX, the customer's expectations, and not necessarily the technology limits, but at what stage the technology is at that point. So I'll give you a really very specific example. I remember doing one of our first cashless events, and in the process of registering, you would put your credit card number, the expiration date, and the amount of money that you wanted to load. But when you're on a website today, oftentimes we ask you for your credit card, your expiration date, and your CVV number. So a lot of people were putting their CVV number in the amount they wanted to put onto their wristband. So imagine the people with American Express cards that have a 4-digit CVV number on the back. We're like, wow, this person's putting $4,689 onto their wristband. It's so random. So these are the types of experiences that are really good. I mean, they're really good to have, honestly, because we don't look at failure as something that is anything more than a great opportunity to learn. And so we have a failure shrine at the office, and it's there as a reminder, and it's also there, for even our clients to see, to go, listen, we take these things very seriously, but it's also we're there to make sure it never happens again. And so these little moments like this of whether it's UX or even what the client's expectation is, the client's expectation is everyone will understand how to use, in my case, an RFID wristband. It's not the case. If you impose a technology on people as opposed to incentivizing a technology and getting people to engage with it, that's going to get buy-in, which we were talking about before, it's a way better strategy than imposing something. When you show up and you go, yes, but I want the 30% increase in spend per head, so everyone's going RFID. We always ask when someone asks us about technology, what is it that you're looking to do? What is your philosophy behind the experience? Why do you want to use this technology? As opposed to just going, yes, no problem, sign you up and sign. We go, why do you want to use this technology? To do what? I want the event to be cashless. Just go credit card. It'll cost you nothing. Just go credit card. It'll be cashless. But no, I want people to be able to do this and this and this. Okay, so then we can discuss. So we're very much about, we think past our customer, we think about their customer's experience. So that's how we approach things.
So thank you for that, everybody, which leads me to remember that I do love new systems, but there's a risk to new systems. There's the unknown, because they're growing as a company and they're going to shift. They're going to figure out what works and what doesn't for them. So a testament to those that have been around forever, you're doing something right. Testament to something new, great new idea. So let me share my horror story. Square comes out. Love it. I love the look of it. I love the feel of it. I love how I got my little thing on it and I can just swipe my card. They never informed us that they put a cap on the amount of value that you could offer for sale. So last year, I got goosebumps telling you. Last year, I get an email from somebody saying, I can't buy a ticket. I go, what do you mean you can't buy a ticket? They said, you can't buy a ticket. That's how I found out. So I emailed Square, I go, okay, you have a right to do what you want with your company, but we're a client. You put a max on it without letting us know. How do you have 20 screening series or 20 divisions of your festival and you're maxed out at $10,000 value that you can sell at any given time? So that was a nightmare and happening that I put everything aside, focus switch, searched online, and I went with something that I decided, I'm not really liking this. And then another company came in just about a month ago, and I made the decision to switch. So I'm in beta with them. And to his credit, he's the owner of a company. He made a separate division from a film festival submission, so now he's doing tickets, and he's on it with me. Like, he's emailing me at 4 o'clock in the morning. And this morning I emailed him and I said, hey, I go, your branding is looking like it's your festival. So I don't mind, so I think companies that offer us services as festivals, please be aware that we do want to help support you because you're supporting us, but we're paying for a service. So can your brand not be larger than ours? Which leads to, this is my favorite question that we discovered in the room back there, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A. I'd love to know, what technology would you love created that could help your festival? But before I want to do that, I want to give a shout out to this company. Look how cool that exit sign is. Like, I don't care where you are. It is a beacon. I need to leave. How do I get out? I love that. So thank you for creating that. So technology, if you could create it right now, like, what would you want? What would you wish for? I want registration. Registration has never worked seamlessly. Companies that have been around forever and companies that are new. Sorry, that's my experience, even when I was with the Hollywood Reporter. They paid big bucks and it still didn't work.
So I'll start this one off. So even though we do a massive event, it is just a part of the larger brand. And our brand is a magazine, we're online. And so the event is just that extension and that ability for us to connect with our consumers and our advertisers, to connect with those consumers. So the technology that we're really moving towards, it's really about the data of that consumer and really being able to allow brands to speak to the consumers they met at the event.
You mean metrics?
Metrics.
Okay.
It's measurable. You can retarget communication. So, what we're trying to solve for is, the events are great. But I think, we talked about it earlier, how are you continuing that conversation year round? And it's not just about what the experience is there, but how does that consumer take that experience home? So I think there's lots of little from photos to, all sorts of ways that consumers engage and then take an experience home, but how are we extending it? So this is like pie in the sky. I don't even know the answer to this, what the technology is, but it's that connecting that experience year round so consumers can actually, even if you're not a magazine or you have an ability as a brand, as a festival to talk to your consumer all year round. So using technology to connect through that.
And when we were back, everybody was talking about the beacon technology and how you can get a pulse right during live at the festival where the weaknesses are and how you could communicate to them. And you were speaking to that, David. Do you want to expound on that?
Yeah, sure. We started developing a piece of technology because it's what we thought we were missing. And I think that, and I've said this every time I've been on stage, if you do develop a festival of any kind, I think one of the most valuable, the opportunity we haven't completely, let's say, opened up as party throwers is how to have that conversation or get to know those people for the full year. Because we might have them for 4 days, and there's so much we learn about somebody. So if somebody buys a ticket to Pebble Beach Food and Wine, we already know. Like if you're going to come to Pebble for 4 days and you're going to spend a certain amount of money, let's say $7,000, we know so much about you immediately. What type of consumer you are, what type of lifestyle and luxury brands you might be interested in, the fact that you're a foodie, the fact that you're into wine, the fact that you've got. So there's a million things that just the opt-in based on geographic location. So that's the starter. But then we get a guest to come for 4 days. And now we're trying to figure out how do we capture their experience or understand more about them throughout their time with us. Because if we can, in 4 days, you can learn a lot about somebody. So we started, and beacon technology for us became the easiest way. Because let's say in our Lexus Grand Tasting tent, we have about 60,000 square feet. And we've got 200 wineries pouring 500 individual wines. And then a bunch of sponsor activations and lounges and, Scotch luge and whatever else you can come up with, right? So for wineries, somebody comes from Napa and they come to Pebble Beach Food and Wine, they set up, and I go and I meet them. Oh, this is great. Oh, I love your Chardonnay, or I love your Sauvignon Blanc. And they want me to opt into their mailing list, right? But to do that, there's a couple options. Obviously, you can use RFID technology. You can use, wristband. But for what we do, that didn't exactly work, and it also didn't solve for all of the things that we wanted to happen. So using beacon technology and a software platform, when you walk up to a vendor, it knows exactly where you are. So I know that I'm drinking your cherry pie Pinot Noir or your Chateau Margaux, and it's on my screen, and I've got a bunch of options. One is I can say, oh, I like it. It's 10 out of 10, or it's 5 out of 10. I can join your mailing list by hitting a button, and it immediately gets populated to the vendor's information, which vendors obviously want. But more importantly, and anybody that's in the Food Wine Festival business knows, it's illegal to sell alcoholic beverages at a Food Wine Festival. Kind of funny, but true. So by creating fulfillment channels in advance of the festival, I can now just use thumbprint technology while I'm sitting there talking to Luigi and his Italian, Pinot Grigio. I can have a case drop shipped to my house from a predetermined vendor while I'm still sitting there having a conversation. But that's still not the big idea. The big idea is that across four days, and using beacon technology, I know exactly how long you spent looking at a Lexus vehicle. I know exactly how, out of 67 wines, you might have tried 57 that were Sauvignon Blancs, and out of 57, 55 were from New Zealand. So I'm pretty sure we're going to talk to you about New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs for the other 361 days a year. And so it allows us to start to target and understand more about that consumer over 4 days, and then find a way to have an ongoing conversation, not just that enhances our relationship with them more to create a better brand presence in their life, but then also obviously opens the door for a ton of commercial opportunities.
Two types of technology I would like to see. One is for the day of the event, smart walkie-talkies. So walkie-talkies where you also have a screen, you can have some apps like a volunteer management app, something like that. You could manage your payments, stuff like that.
So you rent them just for the event?
Well,
or you own
a
them?
lot of times you'll rent Motorola walkie-talkies or something, but they're really archaic. There's only sound. So giving them just some smartphone features like apps and vibrating and stuff like that, I think would really be helpful. Being able to send photos around among the team and say, hey, there's a problem, look. Something like that would be great. And the other one, I just had it and it slipped my mind.
Sorry.
it was touching on that. I think if it comes back to me, I'll jump back in.
We will jump back to you. How about you, Anthony? You were giving some good examples back there.
Yeah, I don't give them all away.
Okay. Yep. We can't tell all our secrets.
No, I'd love to challenge the room to help me with what we're looking to do. We think that a lot of technology right now uses unique identifiers like RFID, like beacons, like cell phones as a way of tracking people and their behavior and so on. We really think that because we approach technology as a behavior first strategy, we think that facial recognition, vocal recognition, biometrics are unique identifiers that people have that don't require any technology on them. I really don't think the cell phone's going to last that long. I think mobile is dead. I think that vocal recognition is really probably what we're going to see a lot of growth in. I think you're going to be able to come up to something and just say some words and it'll approve a transaction. Say some words and it'll let you in. Say the right words and it'll let you in. So I think the unique identification in ourselves that we have, I think, is what we're going to see a lot more advancement on, and we're definitely working on technologies to exercise those.
Didn't you say that you were actually
UIDs.
looking for specific types of skills? You can
Well, yeah, I
send
mean,
it out there, job opportunity.
So if there's any vocal recognition engineers in the room, come see me. If there's any data scientists in the room, because really it's all about data capture. So even if it's actually probably the easiest part is the physical tech. What's really difficult is to understand all this data we're collecting. And we talk about data, we talk about BI, and we talk about analytics, but really, people that are able to understand it, cross-reference it, it's quite a skill, and I think that's probably what we need a lot more of to really, truly understand behavior.
Thank you. So Michael's remembered his thing, and then we're going to open up for Q&A.
I did. I would love to see some kind of standardized demographic data. So one thing I've noticed from our services side of the business when we're going to kind of sift through and do our research on different festivals and events is every festival tweaks the demographics to kind of do their best foot forward and best sales pitch, which is great from making them sound attractive, but when you're actually comparing apples to apples, it makes it extremely difficult. And some festivals tend to get a little too creative on that side.
So what do you mean by standard?
So I would love...
I think male, female, age...
So, yeah, there's standard criteria, but every festival kind of segments that differently and fits that differently to make themselves the most, which is intuitive that they would want to do that. But the problem is you can't really compare, and it becomes less useful data when you can't actually compare.
It's almost like a Nielsen measurement.
Exactly.
For
some kind of universal. Okay, these are standard demographic criteria. Maybe some international event organization or something would kind of lead the way with some big organizations and come together and say, we agree, we're going to, if AEG, for example, said we're going to use these demographics, partner with some of the different event organizations. I think it would be really powerful.
I think it would be controversial as well.
Not AEG necessarily.
Yeah, but I think I don't disagree with you. I think it would be difficult to get everyone to agree, but I do think it would open up a lot in terms of us understanding.
Truthful. I'm on social media. I'm 99 on some platforms, and I'm 26 on others. I don't put my actual birth date. I think that's, stealing my identity. But we'll do that quick, and then we got to open. No,
it's just a statement. I think there's a lot of focus, whether you're talking to a sponsor or even when you look at who you're going after. I think we talk about demographics maybe too much and not psychographics enough, because I don't think age means anything. I don't think gender can mean some things, but in general, like people associate themselves like their lifestyle with something.
So behavior.
Yeah, it's behavior, but it's how you see yourself. It's not what you're, because some people, if you look at the demographics of a nightclub in Vegas, you've got like a group of people that just got off the plane, can't pay rent, but they just completely made the best purchase of their life for a bottle of Kettle One for $600. And so the psychographic is more important to understand, because the demographic wouldn't have fit the model. Like, would they have come and bought a table at Marquee or Excess? No, but they did. So, and that's the whole line of people getting in. Mm-hmm. So I think that we need to look more at the psychographics, because I think you'll be much more successful, not only manipulating your brand, but also figuring out who you're trying to talk to.
And the other terminology that's used in that realm is 5D. So there is a 5D society out there, which I'm a member of. I'm still a little unsure about what it all means, but it's basically the psychographic. So
Cool until you take your clothes
get on
off.
their newsletter list, then we'll all learn together. How's that? So can we open it up for
Yeah, let's
questions?
open
And
it
can we
up
thank
for
our
questions.
panelists for sharing? You're all awesome.
What do you all think about these newfangled things called fax machines? Are they going to be any part of our future?
I love my bank. My bank still wants me to fax. I said, I don't have one and I'm not going to Staples. So deal with the email, right? I think it speaks to everybody speaks a different language in technology. I am not a texter. I want to email you. Some people will only text and they won't talk to me.
Before I found my current engineer, my engineer in Las Vegas refused to get a fax machine because he said it would make him have to work too fast and get me stuff too quickly. So
we've got about 8 to 10 minutes.
any questions, anybody?
Hi there, thanks a lot. Really enjoyed the panel. I was wondering if any of y'all had a chance to go to maybe South by this year. They had a chat bot. It's like an intelligent assistant. You can kind of just ask questions when is Run the Jewels playing, and it would tell you. Have you encountered that before at a festival? And I was just wondering your thoughts on that type of technology. Thanks.
So you're saying, really quick, so I understand, a chatbot, it's like artificial intelligence for like for volunteers, basically, would be like somebody that's
It
supposed
came
to...
in a little muffled, sorry.
Yeah, it's for the festival goers, so it's for the attendees to be able to ask questions. The same type of info you'd get from like the app, schedule, frequently asked questions, but then they can just ask their question and get an answer automatically.
I want one.
Yeah, we've, I was just going to say, we've toyed around, once again, focusing in on how many technologies we can implement, but just to answer those general questions. So where do I go for this? What time is that? I mean, a lot of the information's there. Consumers can't find it. And we staff a lot of volunteers live. We have lots of paper pamphlets. So we, utilizing a chat bot, driving people via social media to it, has been a way to be able to just give people, to just take a surface off of all of the questions that you naturally get.
I think in general, any provider or partner that you would have for an event needs to have a position on artificial intelligence. They need to know, you need to ask them, what is your position on artificial intelligence? How are you using it? Even if it's a first layer, what is the first step in your use of AI? I think almost every company needs to position themselves now knowing that this technology is available to them. It's not very easy to use today, but the idea is that if you start somewhere, it's not about big brothering the whole thing or making it too complex. It's actually about just it's not about selling more to someone. It's about selling the right thing to the right person.
But
You know what I
Anthony,
mean?
weren't
So-
we all speaking back there that we don't want to we don't want to miss the human connection? Like I loved looking
Absolutely.
at each of them back there versus our phone call. So I love the chat box, but now I hear what you're saying is where's that human
But I think it
connection?
applies to almost everything, whether it's chat boxes or ticketing platforms, or the more that we can learn and that the software can learn and be better, for sure it's going to make everyone's experience that much better. And I think in now this day and age, I think let's say the next generations, it's kind of cliche to say, but I think everyone's looking at like, I want to live in the moment. I also like, one life to live, all these terms, the FOMO, the YOLO, all of that is real for this very large generation. So they don't have time to waste, and everything is so quick that you want to be able to present them with the most intelligent thing as quickly as possible.
Great. Next question.
Hi, so I wanted to go back to demographics versus psychographics. What have you guys used to sort of model your customers?
What do
technology-wise?
we use to model our customers?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
I mean, for us, it's complicated. I mean, it's because the only real way to get that information is to get somebody either engaged by learning about what they opted into, whether it's events or things, how their purchasing habits, but is to get them to have a conversation with you. And people can't stand surveys, right? So it is very complicated for us. We've found, because we've tried and we've done surveys and we've given things away. If we've done it, tried everything, but to get people do it, we figured out that it was actually only experiential rewards that actually got them to opt in. For instance, you get an invitation to a secret cocktail bar during the weekend if you do something with a celebrity mixologist. Like, everybody will opt into that because we all want to drink. But if you say, I'm going to give you 10% off your ticket, whatever, even if it was worth $500, people are like, I don't have time. So I think that that's how we've tried to do it. And when we get somebody to actually fill out a more thoughtful survey, because it's not just the stupid regular questions, we get some really interesting information that we can share with our partners. But for us, I'd like to solve for that. We don't do a great job of it.
It's hard. I mean, as I've mentioned, with a huge event, I mean, you would think, and I think our research company is actually here, Performance Research, who is helping us with that. You would think, oh, all 100,000 people, we should be able to talk to every single one of them and get all of their information. It's difficult to capture everyone, even with all the incentives. But even with our partners, they're having, all of the sponsors they have the same goals. So I think it's going back to your point, that experiential, consumers are willing, if there's a prize at the other end, they are willing, they'll do, I have to get all my information, post this to Facebook, they're willing to do it, but don't just give them something.
Well,
you really have to incentivize them.
I'm going to share two things that worked, and they're relatively simple. One was in January. I was like, oh, who doesn't want $100 in January? So I said, $100 cash giveaway, just answer these two questions. They hit reply, and these are the two questions. And I got everything I needed. What's missing, and what did you love? Then we have an 80,000 newsletter list. And then I said to them, oh, no, so that's the 80,000 newsletter list. And honestly, if you just read the questions people email you through your website, that's where I get my juiciest stuff. I'm on the pulse of what they can't figure out, what they want, what they need, what they're frustrated about, and what they love, all in by what they're saying. So that's how I do it. I kind of listen, and people love the $100. And then I announce in the next newsletter, Joe F. won the 100. I don't put the whole name, or the email. And then I keep records, so in case 3 years from now, someone comes up to me and goes, who did you give the money to? I can go look it up.
And I would just
It's not everybody. It's just one person.
One
I was going to
person
say, I
wins
want your
100
marketing budget.
No, it's $100. It's like, it's New Year's. I say
like
Happy New
80,000
Year's,
people.
$100 cash
Make it
giveaway.
rain.
Answer these two questions. And we get a reply, and those two questions, can go into a Google Doc.
And I'll
if
just
you want.
add, your events are also the opportunity we've just implemented over the last few years focus groups. You should really be spending that time talking to the audience deeply, with research professionals in the room, hearing from them, and allowing your partners to talk to them, because that's where you really learn how to innovate. We find we're always talking to each other about what to do next with an event, but the audience is there, so I think your point of looking,
So
on
$100
sites-
budget or larger budget.
Yeah.
I think and time. To me, it was just an idea that I could, click a button, and it worked. I really loved it, So anyways, that's the zero budget and the higher end services. I mean, they all work. It's what technology works for you, right? Question?
One last question.
This should be, this is either the last question or the
Yes.
second to the last question, your call. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm on the IT side of things.
I'm sorry, can you talk about a thumb away from the microphone? Thanks.
Yes. So we're on the IT side of things, and we have a big problem that the majority of people who contact us, it's weeks before their event, and we don't have enough time to do what we need to do to facilitate, whether it's the wristbands or production Wi-Fi. Is the onus on us to provide faster solutions, or is there a way we could talk more efficiently to people who organize festivals to help you come to this decision faster, like, oh, we need to invest in our IT to make this workable?
Go at it, panel. I know you're biting at the bit.
I would say it's never, unfortunately, the late calls are never going to stop, because that is just the nature of festival work. Some of it, we try hard to start early, but start long-term relationships, right? Because I think the more you're talking to them, maybe you couldn't deliver this year, but go to their event, attend it, see what the problems are firsthand, and then 2 weeks after they've caught up on sleep, have another meeting, take them to coffee, go out for drinks, because those are the ones that, in terms of vendor relationships, we go, oh, right. And we have some vendors that's taken 5 years to really solidify the relationship. But we're also so stressed a lot of times, just trying to make decisions and solve crises in the last minute. But having that relationship makes a difference.
I think that sums it up.
David, did you want to say something? You were going to jump in a little earlier.
No, I mean, I think if you can obviously adapt your product for that, then do it, right? That's like capitalism 101. Like if there's a need inside of, and you could transact, if you can figure it out, like take the money. But I think as festival throwers, I know I was dropped on my head when I was a child because I have no idea why the hell I'm in this business. But so we're kind of a little off, and so we're going to call late. We're going to think about calling early, but then we're not going to call early, and then we're going to call you late, and then you're going to tell us we can't do anything, and then we're not going to give you our money. But then we're going to call late again next year.
You know, maybe you can come back and you can say, this is what we can do, and then we'll implement these changes. We'll strategize and see if we can implement these changes. That's what I do with my web guy. I've learned to just go, how can we do this? How can we do this? And that's it. And you have to be flexible. You have to bend like Gumby and hopefully not break. Do we have one more, Stuart?
Sure.
Hi, I was just wondering, particularly for Anthony, when you're dealing with RFID wristbands and new technology, how you address IA concerns, just especially since it has such a significant impact on UX in general.
Sorry about you have to sort of talk
Was it just
about
privacy concerns? Was that what you
something
said?
about audience
Information
participation?
assurance.
There's a whole bunch of things you have to consider with privacy. The first thing is that it's definitely a concern today. There are a whole bunch of states that have their own laws about how much data you're collecting, what you're collecting, retargeting or not. As an example, we've dealt with some of the biggest brands in the world, like Target, who said, we're going to do this activation with you, but within 24 hours, we want all the data deleted from your servers afterwards. So there's a whole bunch of protocols that are put in place from a security standpoint, whether it's on our end, on the client's end, opt-ins and the legalese that needs to be presented to the clients, to the end users to opt into these things. Like you said, people opt in for just about anything today. But you do need to put everything in place so that you can minimize liability. And so we work very closely with our clients and their legal teams to make sure that we have everything in place to make that happen.
And for those, I've had my identity stolen 4 times. Susan Johnston is a very common name. My suggestion to you is make an online profile with a different birth date. You know, different high school, different college, whatever. When they're demanded answers.
Great, Susan. You're ruining all the demographic information we're trying to collect at the event.
This is the problem with demographics.
Don't do that,
That's
people.
what I do. That's what I do.
So
You have to protect yourselves, you know, within certain reason. So.
Susan, thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
I had one more thing. Nobody talked about the advancement of drugs and the use of Ritalin to make the audience smarter and
So
that sort of thing.
I actually
form of
don't do
technology.
drugs.
I think that's the next panel.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't do drugs. I can't endorse them. Me on drugs would be pretty freaky.
Okay.
5D Society.
Right, what?
No.
What?
I still want
think
to
I
know
was
what that
dropped
is.
on my
What was
head,
the
too.
5D club that you were talking
Oh,
about?
the 5D Club is pretty out there. It's people all over the globe, and I mean, there's some prominent people on that list. And okay, so basically what it is, from my understanding, which is really quite scary, is 5D is emotional layering in storytelling where you are manipulating every millisecond for the audience to have an emotional reaction that you want. I got goosebumps telling you that. It's everything from sound to visuals to how you edit. It's pretty freaky stuff, but that's why I'm part of it, because I want to be aware of it. And trust me, I am the first one that will scream at the top of their lungs if they're starting to, you know, reprogram your brains. Does that make sense?
Well,
I
we
want
definitely
you to be
don't want you to
human.
scream, Susan. Anyway, I just want to thank everybody because we're a
Thank
little
you.
bit
Yes, I'll
over.
go on
And I
forever.
want to tell everyone we have a lunch break now. And Dos
Ooh.
Toros, who's one of our sponsors and did food for us last night, they're giving away certificates at their booth, which is in the exhibit hall, where you can get free nachos and salsa. So you should pick one
And
up
guacamole.
and go
The
check it out.
guacamole's
But we're
excellent. Chips and
attached to them
guac.
all here. So go experience what
Yeah, the 5
Westfield
is
Place has to
really
offer.
scary.
And
That's
enjoy your
really
lunch.
scary.
See you in an hour. Thank you.
No, it's really scary.
What's